Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Surah Asr. Central theme, relationship with the preceding surah and sequence in the subject matter. In Surah Takasur, the previous surah, those people are warned who waste all their lives in planning to amass wealth until death stares them in their eyes and they do not even get the time to think of the higher objective for which the Almighty blessed them with life. Instead of trying to achieve this objective, they wasted their lives in going after petty goals and trivial desires. Had they known that one day, like all other favors, they would have to give an account of the way they spent the great blessing of life also, they would never have been so foolish as to waste their lives in gathering meager pleasures and becoming worthy of eternal condemnation. Had they exercised prudence, they would have realized that this life could have afforded them with an everlasting kingdom. Now in this surah, the real value and importance of life is divulged. The factors which make it a surety for eternal salvation and the factors which make it responsible for eternal doom are explained. How a person can make it an embodiment of benevolence for himself and how it becomes, out of its own accord, a means of his scourge and punishment if he is not able to make it an embodiment of benevolence for himself is alluded to. In order to make man understand this reality, an oath has been sworn by time as a means to testify to this reality. If a person reflects, he will come to know that the real investment he has in this world is a small span of time which is given to him in the form of a period of life. If he uses this time in the right manner, he can become a favorite of the being who blessed him with life and also attain the state whereby he becomes pleased with his Creator and his Creator becomes pleased with him. On the other hand, he can also earn the eternal punishment of hell by misusing it. In other words, by nature, this time period is like a sword which can be used in both ways. If a person does not use it to his own advantage, it will automatically be used in favor of Satan, his eternal enemy. A very small portion of time, which is the present, is in his power, and he can use it in the way he wants to. Of the rest, either it has become the past, which can never return to him, or the future, which is hidden to him, and no one knows its extent or whether it exists for him in the first place. And if he does, what are the circumstances and the demands it affords? Whatever time comes, it comes with its certain demands and requisites. There is no possibility that a person defer his present obligation to the future. After focusing man's attention to this all-important reality, the correct approach is pointed out, which is adopted by those who correctly benefit from the time of life they are given and thereby earn eternal life in place of this fleeting one. Though this approach is pointed out in a few words, however, such is the judiciousness and comprehensiveness of style adopted that if a person deliberates on it, he will come to know the individual and collective obligations which are imposed on him that he must discharge, and that it is on discharging them that his eternal salvation depends. A little deliberation shows that the real purpose of the Qur'an is to guide man to this straight path and to organize the individual and collective life of a person in order to achieve success in the hereafter. In other words, the message which is conveyed by 114 surahs of the Qur'an has been succinctly put forth in these 3 verses of this surah. It is to this very fact that Imam Shafi has pointed out by saying that if people only read Surah Asr while reflecting on its contents, it will suffice for them. Text of the surah.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal 'asri innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr.
Translation of the surah. In the name of God, the most gracious, the ever merciful. Time bears witness that man is in a state of loss, except those who embraced faith and did righteous deeds and urged one another to the truth and urged one another to patience. Explanation of the surah. Wal Asr. Time bears witness. The particle va denotes bearing witness and asr means a period of time. Here is a summary of what my mentor, Amin Farahi, has written while presenting his research on this word in the exegesis of this surah. Asr means a period of time. Just as the word dahr refers to the totality of time, the word asr refers to its moving forward and swiftness. Consequently, its dominant use is on the time period which has passed. Imrul Qais says, وَهَلْ يَنْعَمْنَ مَنْ كَانَ فِي الْعَصْرِ الْخَالِي. And now it is good fortune for those who were in the time of the past. Ubayd ibn al-Abras says, فَذَاكَ عَصْرٌ وَقَدْ أَرَانِي يَحْمِلُنِي بَازِلٌ شَبُوبٌ. And that was also a period of time when I used to see myself riding a young and beautiful she-camel. Farahi, Majmu' Tafasir, page 339. After presenting the meaning of this word in the light of classical Arabic, Imam Farahi summarizes the discussion thus. It is evident from this discussion that the word Asr on the one hand reminds a person of the incidents and events of the past, and on the other hand also directs his attention to their specific characteristic of swiftness and rapidity. A reference to both these facets brings two consequences before us. First, the judgment of God will be implemented on people according to their deeds. Second, we should benefit as much as we can from the passing time, whose most prominent feature is its briskness and speed. Farahi, Majmu' Tafasir, page 340. Now consider the question, why has time been sworn upon here? The answer to this question is that on the one hand, the Almighty has directed our attention to the various events of history which took place on the basis of His law of reward and punishment, and which have been mentioned in the Qur'an and other divine scriptures, and on the other hand, people have been cautioned and prodded that they should not spend their lives in indifference and oblivion. They should diligently try to use it to their own advantage. It is in lieu of these fast-moving moments of time that they can obtain an eternal kingdom if they really comprehend their true value. If they do not, then they should remember that they will become a means of eternal curse for them. Imam Farahi has explained this point in the following words in his exegesis. The judgment of God enforced on the previous nations of the prophets was an exact recompense of their deeds. If they did virtuous deeds, the Almighty blessed them with ascendancy, and if they took to oppression and spreading disorder, the law of God, after giving them respite for a time in which the truth was made evident to them to the extent that they could not deny it, destroyed them. It is to remind people of this reality that an oath was sworn by time, so that people remember that one day they will have to face this law of retribution. Moreover, there is another delicate point hidden in this oath. The real investment a person has is that of time, and the primary feature of time is that nothing can outdo its briskness and speed. How naive is a person who, in spite of being aware of this disloyalty of time, trusts it and becomes indifferent to the transience of this world and to the accountability of the hereafter. Farahi, Majmu' Tafasir, pages 341 and 342. Imam Farahi cites an example to explain this reality. In this matter, man is much like a merchant who trades in ice. However, instead of trying to sell it as soon as possible and gain some profit from this transaction, he stacks it in a place and merrily views its shine, relishing the coldness it provides. It is obvious that very soon such a short-sighted merchant would end up lamenting his indifference. Farahi, Majmu' Tafasir, page 342. In this regard, Imam Farahi has directed our attention to another aspect. Moreover, in the swiftness of time, there is an aspect which gives us glad tidings and strengthens our patience. In this short span of time, man, if he desires, can gather an everlasting treasure. An accursed person, being lured by the transient pleasure of this mortal life, deprives himself of eternal pleasure and success. However, a wise person, after bearing the trials of self-discipline and virtue of this finite life, which is no more than a fleeting dream and a flash of lightning, obtains the pleasure of God and the embellishment of His eternal love. Farahi, Majmu' Tafasir, page 342. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Man is in a state of loss, except those who embraced faith and did righteous deeds, and urged one another to the truth, and urged one another to patience. Stated here is the real premise to substantiate which an oath has been sworn by time. If, on the one hand, the value and importance of the lifespan granted to a person is such that he can attain an eternal kingdom because of it, and also end up eternally condemned if he shows indifference, and on the other hand, such is the nature of its swiftness and speed that every moment is shortening it and man has no hold on this, then all people are in a state of loss. People whose real investment in capital is being rapidly consumed whilst they themselves are unaware of this happening. Thus this whole premise is stated in the form of a testimony and asserted that all people are in a state of loss except those who embraced faith and did good deeds. It is evident from this discussion that the real value and significance of life is in faith and righteous deeds. The very purpose for which the Almighty has blessed man with life is that man, in defiance and in opposition to Satan, leads it in a manner prescribed by God. In reward for this, the Almighty will be pleased with him, and he will be pleased with the Almighty, and earn the ticket to eternal paradise. Just as the reward for the eternal life of paradise in return for a few days of trial is no ordinary favor, ending up losing this favor whilst being led astray by the lures of Satan is no ordinary a deprivation. The definition of Iman has been mentioned at a number of places in this exegesis. In short, it can be stated as acknowledging God with full sincerity of heart whilst accepting all His attributes and their obvious corollaries. Imam Farahi, whilst explaining the meaning of Iman in his exegesis, has written, "The root of Iman is Amin. It is used in various shades of meaning. Amanahu a'tahu amna, or he gave him peace. The Qur'an states, wa amanahum min khawf, or he provided them with peace in fear. Surah 106, verse 4. Similarly, amana lahu, which means saddaqahu wa i'tamada alayh, or he attested to it, or he trusted it. And amana bihi, which means ayqana bihi, or he had absolute faith in him. This word has been used in the Qur'an in all these shades. One of its derivatives is mu'min, which is amongst the noble names of God, because He gives peace to those who seek His refuge. This word is also an ancient religious term. Hence, the certitude which exists with humility, trust, and all the conditions and corollaries of adherence to a view is called Iman, and he who professes faith in God, in His signs, and in His directives, and submits himself to Him, and is pleased with all His decisions, is a mu'min." Farahi, Majmu' Tafasir, page 347.